Hey guys, welcome back to another episode on the What I Love About Sex podcast. So today I'm going to give you 5 questions to ask a sex therapist or sex coach before deciding to work with them. And this is important because you want to get a feel for who you're going to work with. You know, especially when it comes to the topic of sex, you want to make sure you have someone who has experience, who could talk about sex themselves and is comfortable, right? Like a lot of general therapists will change the topic when their client brings up sex because of their own personal discomforts. So you want to make sure you're getting someone who can really, own that topic and go all in and like have a flowing conversation that feels comfortable. And then you can trust them, and then there's more of that bond and accountability within your relationship when you work together. So important to get, a feel for the person. And I'm going to give you 5 questions to help you feel them out. All right. Number 1, what is your training and expertise in sex therapy or sex coaching? So, this is a great question just to get to know their background. They'll tell you their qualifications. Do they have a bachelor's, a master, certifications? Question number 2, what type of sexual issues do you typically deal with? The answer to this should be immediate and it should be direct. If they're like, oh, I help with everything, then it's like, okay, you don't have a specialty, and maybe I want to find someone who is a specialist in my situation, so I'm more likely to get a result. So if someone was to ask me this question, for instance, I would say I specialize in helping men who struggle with erectile dysfunction, delayed ejaculation, and premature ejaculation. And I also specialize in helping men with their sex communication problems with their female partners. All right, so those 3 dick-related issues and that 1 communication issue is always what I will answer with. Those are my specialties. Basically, all of my clients have one of those challenges. And because those are all my clients and because I market myself that way and tell people that, I am able to get more and more experience in these 4 different challenges so that I can help best. And you most likely want someone who has some kind of specialty in what you're struggling with. When you have an earache, you go to the ear doctor, right? You don't just go to a general practitioner. So, think of it like, okay, I have to go to someone who's not only comfortable in sex, but also maybe specializes or has at least a lot of experience helping people in my situation. Question number 3, what is your approach to sexual concerns? Right? So some people's approach will be medication. Some people's approach will be behavioral changes. And another approach is, psychedelic, like microdosing during a session to help you relax and speak your mind more clearly or easily. There's also a bodywork approach where the professional will touch the client, with consent, of course, and it's for the purpose of helping them overcome trauma, for instance, or helping them understand, how to make their body function in certain ways, but there is hands-on work. So that's, another approach. Then there's a spiritual approach. So you want to understand, what is your approach? And that professional may have, 1 to many. So you want to understand that. Those are the first 3 questions. I want to break just to remind you that I, of course, have a one-on-one coaching program. I am currently open for taking on clients, and the link is in the description of this episode. So like I said, I specialize in guys who struggle with premature ejaculation, delayed ejaculation, erectile dysfunction, and sex communication issues with their female partners. So if that's you and you're looking for help, actionable help, like things you're actually going to change daily and in action, communication with your wife, and also mentally in your thoughts, those are my approaches. That's how I will help you. Masturbation is a main tool I use, and that's why I created my sex meditations. But that is not the only thing I use with one-on-one clients. So if you're interested, apply. We can possibly get on an intro call and just talk about it and see if we're a good fit to work together. But if not, that's okay. Just get the help you need wherever you need to get it. All right. So the 4th question you would ask a professional before working with them when it comes to a sex issue is, how do you create a safe, non-judgmental space for discussing sexual topics? This question is probably my favorite, and I think most important, because if you are having a hard time talking about sex, you want to make sure you're with someone who's making it as comfortable as possible. And it might be easier for you to gravitate towards someone who's a very few words, but you have to really think about that. Like if they're if they seem uncomfortable talking about sex and they're not asking lots of questions around it or not digging deeper with it, especially when it comes to shame and, embarrassing things that maybe you're talking about, like you want someone who is expressive, who is a listening ear, who is going to make eye contact with you, who is going to empathize. You want someone who kind of feels what you're feeling, like can understand and appreciate you being honest, and that is something I do. It's really important for me to first ask the question when a client gets on an intro call. I'll say, how do you feel about this call right now? Like, have you ever talked to anyone about this before? And those are the questions I'll usually ask right off the bat. And then I get a good sense of how comfortable this person is and how soft and gentle I need to be. Because sometimes guys will be like, oh, I really have no issue talking about this. And when he's that type of guy, I know I can be more blunt. I can maybe make more jokes. And that always works really well. And then on the flip side, if there's someone who's like, I've never talked about this, like ever. And I'm even embarrassed right now to be on this call. Then I will take a different approach. I will quiet my voice. As you guys know, I'm usually very intense and passionate. Like the passion will remain. I will just be a little more quiet and gentle. And I will use certain tone, like, and then it's going to be okay. And we're going to figure it out. Like this isn't something you got to worry about forever. Like I promise you that. I'm very reassuring. I'm very comforting because that's how I'm thinking this man needs to be spoken to, which he does based on the level of where he's at. Because how I always teach you guys in these episodes, like meet her at her level. You got to meet in the middle. Like that's what I'm doing here. I'm meeting my client or potential client where they're at from the very start so that I create comfortability and trust too, because you trust someone who is understanding and who accepts you and who is kind and who makes jokes, in the appropriate sense where it just feels like, this can be lighthearted. It doesn't have to be heavy and weird, and that's always the type of environment or vibe I try to give off is like, let's try to have fun, like we're going to throw out some sex jokes here once in a while, if it makes sense with the client, of course. And, we're going to make light of it. I'm going to point you out when you're being ridiculous about something, then we're going to laugh. This is how it turns out to be because that's the intention I put out there from the very get-go. So you want to be able to feel those things. And this also shows you how comfortable, not only comforting, which is what we just talked about, but also how comfortable this professional is, right? So you're understanding how comfortable and comforting they are. And then the last question number 5, how do you set goals and track progress with your sex therapy or sex coaching? So this is a good one to ask. So you could be like, hey, like if I have this goal, how would that play out throughout us working together? What would it look like? And how often would we check in? That way we know we're improving. So that's a good question to ask as well. If you want to make sure that the therapist or professional knows your exact goals and is going to be able to tell you ahead of time, what types of things you're going to do and try out to meet those goals. All right, so I hope this was helpful. This is just to keep you guys safe from situations that, are with people who are not genuine. They just want another client, and then they'll just say, oh yeah, I'll take you, but they have no experience with sex. You don't want to be in that situation. But I know there's also some of you who are like, I'm just going to go to whatever therapist I get. It's with my insurance or whatever. I would be mindful, like you're not going to get the best sex education or sex therapy with someone who hasn't specialized in sex, so you have to take a look at that and ask yourself, have I been seeking out solutions for this problem with this type of professional that maybe isn't the best for this problem? Maybe they're the best and amazing at something else, but not for sex. Okay, maybe I should seek out other options. So I hope this helps you think a little bit and just consider who you've worked with in the past and who's been most helpful or what things you've learned from. It could even be Instagram accounts, right? Like what's been the most impactful on your education and what has helped you move forward, and choose someone who's similar to that. All right, guys, that is it. Like I said, the application for one-on-one coaching with me is in the link of the description of this episode. And have an amazing morning, evening, or night, wherever you are in the world. Talk to you soon.